Hi everyone, and welcome to day 33 of our journey with the Celtic Saints. I'm hiding out in the porch of the refectory because it's raining again, which is very apt because today is one of the great Welsh saints, St Cadfan. And St Cadfan lived roughly at the same time as St David and some of the other great brothers and sisters of the Welsh Celtic Church. He originally went over to Brittany where he learned to be a monk, and only some years later came back from his training there. But when he did so, he came back and founded first of all a community just outside Welshpool in the middle of Wales, and then went on to found a community on the island of Bardsey, right up in the north-west coast on what's known as the Llyn Peninsula. And right at the end of this great hook out into the sea on the north coast of Wales, there's an island about a mile or so off the coast, and that's known as Bardsey, and it became known as the Island of 20,000 Saints because Bardsey grew as a monastery dedicated to St Mary and an abbey church there, and brothers came from far and wide to live out their Christian life there on this very small island. And it was known by the local poets and bards as the great gateway to heaven, where forgiveness of sins was granted, and a place where the great and the brave would be buried. So it's like Iona on the west coast of Scotland, it became known as the place of burial of the kings and everybody else who were like first in line for the gateway to heaven. So it's a great story. But Cadfan was more than just a story. He was a great missionary. He sought to share much of his love by inspiring others. And one of the beautiful stories about him is that when he came back from Brittany, he brought with him 7 princes and princesses from the Brittany tribes, and they became missionaries to the rest of Wales, sharing the good news of the gospel. And we're going to look at one or two of those in our last few days with the Celtic Saints. And they deserve their own story to be told, because they too shared the love of Jesus in a foreign land where actually it would have been much easier for them to stay at home and live the comfortable life. So this is St Cadfan, an inspiration to many and a man of great faith. And one of the joys about these many stories is that it's not just about yesterday, although Bardsey is meant to be the burial place of Merlin in the story of Arthur, King Arthur. The spirit of Merlin is meant to reside there, but it's much more relevant to today too, because just back on the mainland is the small town village of Aberdaron, where one of my favourite poets was a vicar called R.S. Thomas, a crazy mad Welshman who looked like a crazy professor, but who had a beautiful and tender heart. And it was only a year or so ago that Jan and I were able to holiday there, and we went to Aberdaron in the rain, just like today. And I'd like to close with one of his poems, because it really speaks to me of the journey of prayer in God. And this is on a slate in the actual church of Aberdaron. So I'll just find it quickly a moment. And it says this. Hold on, here we are. This is his poem. It's entitled The Other. I'd like you to imagine lying awake in bed at night when you can't sleep and listening outside the vicarage to the waves as he did so. There are nights that are so still that I can hear the small owl calling, far off, and a fox barking, miles away. It is then that I lie in the lean hours awake listening to the swell born somewhere in the Atlantic, rising and falling, wave on wave, on the long shore by the village that is without light and companionless. And the thought comes of that other being who is awake too, letting our prayers break on him, not like this, but for a few hours, but for days, years, and for eternity. I love that. When you're in your prayer time, sometimes feeling, what's the point? And you may be awake at night or in the daytime even, and you feel quite alone. Actually, the one upon whom your prayers break actually hears, and he's always there to hear. So that's St. Cadfan, and may you have a good rest of the day, and may you be inspired by the love of that part of the world. Truly inspirational. God bless everyone. Bye for now.